Hello there, you beautiful soul. Welcome back to another Culture Talk segment with your host and founder of Cultured Society. My name is Rebecca Munoz, and I am here with yet another special guest. And I'm really excited for this one. And again, I tend to be excited about all my guests that come through because every single person that I am interviewing in this series has so much to offer this world. These people are creating waves on planet Earth today and are inspiring so many people to up level their game, to walk in purpose every single day. I like to say that we each and every single one of us has a specific DNA code that we were brought to this earth to fulfill. Although we have very similar components that make up our human anatomy, and I truly believe that we are all a part of one body. And you may not agree with me, but I truly believe that we're all the same. And that even though we come from, different walks of life, that we come from different upbringings, we come from different philosophies, religious backgrounds, experiences, we were brought here to, go through these experiences, share these experiences, and walk alongside people that are going to inspire you to continue to live in your divine purpose, because each and every one of us has one. So Keenan and I had an opportunity to meet when I was traveling through Los Angeles, visiting a good friend of mine that just so happened to, I met him while we were living in Chicago, and that's where Keenan is right now. And it's so crazy because even though this world is so big, I truly believe that there's like 0 degrees of separation, especially when it comes to technology these days, because technology can be used in a negative way, but it can also be used, it could be a very powerful tool that we use to authentically connect, collaborate. I mean, there's just so many things that we can do with technology today. So I'm coming to you from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Keenan is currently in Chicago, Illinois, and we are here to bring you a conversation that is going to inspire you, uplift you, and just all things in between, really. So I just invite you to open up your mind and just turn on your listening ears and just be open to this conversation. And we are here to just extend love, compassion, grace, empathy, and all the beautiful, emotions that can evoke an emotion that is going to just, like I said, inspire you to continue to walk in your purpose. So Keenan the First was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, reborn in Los Angeles, California, and currently resides in Chicago, Illinois, on the north side with his wife. He is a rapper with an English degree who thought he was going to have a shot in the NFL until concussion number 4. Now he's enjoying less headbanging in the music industry. You can find his single Wet on the in-game soundtrack of NBA 2K22 and the MSG Network. So I am so honored to have Keenan here in this space to just vibe with me in this amazing conversation. Thank you and welcome, Keenan, to Cultured Society today.
Wow, that was an amazing intro. Thank you for blessing me with that. It's also really good to be here with you, Rebecca. I feel honored to be reconnected in this way. Like as you said, being in Chicago and kind of seeing it from your perspective is a really interesting way to kind of come into the fold. So thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So if you have not had an opportunity to tune into these conversations, I invite you to maneuver through the playlist on this Culture Society platform. You are going to find an array of conversations and people from all walks of life, from the ages of 21 to 65, different genders, different ethnicities, different backgrounds, belief systems. And we are here just to inspire you. Again, inspire you to continue to walk in your divine purpose because you have one. And, we're always drawing in different audiences, and we have the ability to impact people on a very big level when we just unite and just share the gift, just continue to share the gift, to continue to share your voice, because Your voice is such a gift, and I invite you to continue to speak your truth and to share your experiences, because even if it's just one person that you inspire, that's enough, because that person can inspire another person, and then that person can inspire another person, and it just becomes like this huge domino effect, and we continue to just impact the world. So I was really inspired to do these conversations because I just don't believe that we're having them enough. And, sharing stories can be so impactful. And, instead of sharing the bad news, let's continue to share the good news, because although there is a lot of chaos and war, I believe that we're in a spiritual war zone right now. But there's also so much triumph going on in this world. And where focus goes, energy flows. So today we are going to be focusing on all the triumphs that people are experiencing day in and day out. So with this, I introduce the conversation of life philosophies, experiences, and culture with the first question, Keenan. What is your life's philosophy?
Yeah, so that's evolved, I think, over time, but the one that I'm running with is do what you love every day. And I think that it requires you to do the work of figuring out what you love first. And that's not an easy task for anybody. It's something that we all have to figure out. It's something that we figure out at different times in life, different catalysts for that. But I was fortunate enough to live out my football dream. And that required me to do that every single day. I had to sacrifice for that dream. I had to focus on that dream, and I gave up things for that dream. But I also got to realize a lot of great things through my football career. And so now that I'm, about to turn 30, and outside of football, I feel like I have enough tools to identify new things that inspire me, just like football did, but in a way where I can continue instead of feeling like I no longer have a life. And so doing what you love every day is the best way to get better at something. It's not completely realistic to do something every single day, but as long as you carry that with you on a daily basis, it's how you gradually grow. It's how you get better. It's how you end up where you see in your mind. And that's the philosophy that I think has helped me as a competitor.
That's so good. And you mentioned that philosophy has evolved through the years. So when did it really start? When did you really start paying attention to the fact that it was evolving?
Wow. I think so in my bio, you mentioned that I had my fourth concussion. So I got very humbled my senior year of high school. I was a pretty cocky football player, thought I was going to go Division I. I told my dad when I was 5 years old, I was going to go be a running back at Alabama, and I was going to go play professional football for the Vikings.
At 5?
5 years old. I already knew.
Wow.
I already saw it tangibly in my mind. So football was big for me, and I wasn't just playing it to have fun. I had a lot of fun playing it, but it was always a vision that I was sort of fulfilling. And so my senior year of high school, I sprained my ankle in the game, and it really messed up my ability to get more stats that year. And I didn't get the scholarships that I thought I was going to have. I hadn't even applied to college because I thought I was just going to get a scholarship. And I was severely humbled. And I ended up walking on to the University of Wyoming, which, for people who don't know, that means that I paid my way through school on the football team, still doing everything that the football players did. But I ended up getting a scholarship in my third season. So it took me 3 college seasons to get to where I wanted to be as a college athlete. And that's when I started realizing that, you know what, it doesn't look like how you think it looks. When I was 5 years old, I had this vision of what it was going to look like. I didn't end up at the school that I saw. I didn't end up, going to the NFL because I had my fourth concussion, and I had to really consult what my future was going to look like. But the feeling that I had in that vision was something that I realized. And that took a long time. It took until I could see the picture, or at least feel what was inside of the picture. And I guess that would be from 5 to 8, 19 or 20, so 15 years.
That's so crazy. I feel like we often take our creativity and our vision for granted, right? Because we're having those visions from such a young age. We start to develop a very creative mind. I mean, the most critical and important years of a human's life is from conception to 7 years of age. And when those 7 years of age, you already develop an idea of what your life is going to look like. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And then it's a constant evolution, and we don't really oftentimes as a humanity give ourselves the opportunity to even expand on that vision, because vision, it can be so clear. And we often think that when we have this vision, it's going to look exactly that way, but it's usually just the catalyst, right? And you can expand on it. And then when you get to that place that you thought it was going to look like, then you could take it a different direction and you can just create something different. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And how did your family, or how did your upbringing and circle of influence impact the way that you think and live, not only today, but even throughout your lifetime?
Yeah, I grew up in a very musical household. That was sort of a core value in our house, was music. But I grew up in a Christian hip hop household. So my dad, he didn't really let us listen to secular music. I wasn't listening to the radio. I wasn't listening to, you know, any popular styles of music or artists, until I had my rebellious phase at 13. And I started getting introduced to different types of music. And I think what that actually helped me do was appreciate expression in music, because not that Christian artists aren't expressing themselves, they're expressing a very specific message. But I never knew people could express themselves in the ways that Eminem could. And when you're rebelling in a Christian household, that's pretty much as far left as you can go, So,
Totally.
but I also dedicated my focus to football pretty early. And so I was always, I've talked with people about being a plan A or plan A and B person, or plan, or what should you have a plan B? And a competitor mentality is always no, you should put 100% into one thing. But I think the reality is that I've never been a plan A only person. I sort of always thought I was going to play music or play football, go to the NFL, make money, and then do my music career. And that's just been a part of who I surround myself with. So I've always had athletes in my life, these competitive, like really go-getter, people don't necessarily like their presence, but they end up becoming what they say they're going to become. And then musicians who are these like really expressive, emotional, tapped into things that people don't necessarily see all the time people. And those types of people have brought out, I think, my best qualities together. And so, the way that I value expression, the way that I value listening to people, the way that I value, your actual, what are you actually interested in? What do you actually love? Those have come from sports and have come from music.
That's great. That's great. And it's so important to surround yourself with people that really, they bring out not only the best in you, but also really just support that idea of multidimensionality and multifaceted skills, right? Because we're brought up in a society that's very cookie cutter and very one-dimensional, right? But that's not who we are as human beings. We have the capacity. I mean, we have billions of cells in our brain, right? So the capacity that we have in our human potential is just limitless.
Yeah.
right? We're not supposed to do just one thing.
Right.
We're created to do a variation of things, right? Whether it's in one industry or multiple.
Right.
So it's really great to be able to surround yourself with people. And, we can't choose, well, people think that we don't choose our family, but at a soul level, we do, right? We sign a contract before we come into this human experience, and we kind of knew who our family was going to be. We chose them for specific experiences and lessons that we needed to learn through our human evolution. However, we may not be able to choose our family, but we're able to choose the people that we surround ourselves with as we continue to mature in our human evolution. And so, I love that choice that we have to be able to surround ourselves with people that are going to continue to inspire up-leveling within every aspect of our life. It's so important because we are the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And they truly do. They truly impact our energy. They impact, what we choose to do every single day with our life. When you had your 4th concussion and you had this vision in your mind, did it take you a while to accept your new reality?
Yeah. Part of the reason why I joke about being reborn in Los Angeles is because emotionally I was shattered. And, as a football player, as a Black man, like that's not something that you are used to showing people. And especially as an athlete, like you get elevated into society in ways that you don't necessarily notice all the time, is that people just have a grounded respect for someone doing something that they perceive they can't do, right? And so if you're playing football in front of 60,000 people, then it's like, oh, you know what? I don't know how you did that, but I respect that. And I see you as a football player. That is like an elevated, identified status in society that you get to then use and carry, and it carries you through social interactions, and it helps you open doors that you didn't know would be closed without it. And so when my identity as a football player ended, it was a really strange reentry into society as Keenan. And so that was difficult. And it's not something that there are not a lot of support systems built for that specific challenge, because in a lot of ways you might feel like you failed more than yourself, because you think that, you know what, if I would have went to the NFL, I could have done even more things for my family and my friends, and more than just me. But now that I can't do that, do they look at me like a failure? Am I a failure? Should I have been able to do more with the opportunity that I had? And that's something I think I struggled with for a while. I would say probably, I mean, it's something that it doesn't really leave. Like the hard thing about sports is that you either get too old and all the younger players get better than you, or you get injured and you have to just hang it up. And so there's not like a truly graceful exit from it. And so part of that is talking to your teammates that have gone through the same thing and realizing that you're not the only person dealing with whatever emotional or psychological things that you're dealing with, and coming to the realization that this is just a process of ending something that's beautiful to you or something that you loved. And how do you then use your strengths and your skills and those experiences to then transition into something that's like valuable and equitable for society in a bigger way than you thought that you thought football could do, or sports could do, or whatever your previous passion was. And so yeah, it was a little bit of an identity crisis, like trying to figure out who I was without football, because like I said, I had given up summers for it. Me and my wife now, we were long distance for a long time because we went to different schools, and it was hard to travel on break times because those were the times where I could try to get ahead in football. And so there was a lot that was given up for that. But ultimately, I think what helped me is that I actually had a really great mentor in our trainer our head trainer. His name was Ryan Pinson. Shout out RP. He pulled me aside because, as a walk-on, they were always telling me ways that they could take things away from me, right? So like, I got my scholarship, but it was like, if you don't have good grades, then we'll give it to the next guy. If you're not, making gains in the weight room, we'll give it to the next guy. So I took that as, let me be the best weightlifter I can be. Let me be the best student I can be. Let me be the best. Let me learn every single position for wide receiver in the playbook. And I was a really good student. I graduated with like a 3.7, which was not the highest on the team, but the second highest on the team. Me and the kicker were going back and forth every single semester. And so RP pulled me aside when I had my fourth concussion, and he said, you should consider what you would do after football, because you have good grades. You have music as something that you actually love to do. You know that already. And you're a smart guy. And what you're dealing with right now is a head injury. And you have to truly consider what the implications are for that. And so as a 21-year-old who had given his life to the game, it was very difficult for me to see who I would be at 30 without football. You know what I mean? But that was the only person in that situation who tried to like go back out to the macro level and be like, yo, look at what your life is going to be, not your football career. And I think through the years, that has actually helped me the most be confident in reestablishing an identity.
That's so good. That's so good. And I'm glad that you talked about identity, because oftentimes we identify ourselves, or society identifies us for what we do, by what we do for a living. What our status is based on, how much money we make, right? Or what our title is. And it's, this is why I love to talk about these things specifically, and to really dig deep into the psyche of the person who's being interviewed, because we're more than just what we do for a living. Some people, have picked a career that not necessarily, well, they thought at one point that it was going to be their purpose and their destiny, but then things change, just like the seasons change. And so it's really important for us to accept that through our human evolution, our visions are going to change. Our identity tends to change by the things that we're constantly changing. Right. It's the only constant in life, right? And when we accept that, when we fully embrace that concept throughout our human evolution, it just becomes something that we become more adaptable every day. We're just more pliable, right? We just kind of go with the flow of what life is bringing to us. And even if you are not doing that exact same thing that you envisioned yourself to be doing, God has a greater plan.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
God has a greater plan. And I think that one of the things that we have such a difficult time with right now is mental health. Mental health awareness is something that we need to continue to bring to the forefront of people's minds. And it's okay for things to constantly change. It's okay for us to go through seasons where we don't know what we want to do, right?
Right.
It's just so important to be able to embrace those concepts, because, people are really struggling right now to identify themselves. And when we recognize that we're just going through our human evolution day in and day out, literally second by second, right?
Right.
Because we don't even know if we're going to be here tomorrow.
I think that plays back into the do what you love every day. Like, I think music was something that I knew I loved, but I didn't know what a career looked like in music, and a lot of times we like inundate ourselves with what we should be doing with what we love. And it's like, if you were to focus on, let's say you really like drawing, like, don't think about how you're going to sell 20 paintings at a show in New York. Think about how you can complete this face and then add something else to it, and then add another thing to it, and do that, and give yourself the timeline of, I do this every day. So did I do more today than I did yesterday, or did I do equal today to what I did yesterday, or do I feel confident in what I did today? Do I feel proud of what I did today? Because when I changed my mentality from I want to make $1 million before 30 years old to I want to give myself the opportunity to create music every day, then it was like all of the expectations that I brought into the studio with me, all of the like baggage that I brought to the writing something was just like left in the wind. And I was like, it's a different sense of freedom to be able to choose your passion as incrementally as you would like. And you would be surprised at how many more opportunities come through the door and how much more like chances to make money with it, or people you inspire to just rally around it. Like it's just like a feeling that you can't, that's undeniable for people, you know?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And music is something that really, oh man, it just evokes every emotion in the book. Especially when you are so passionate about music. And that goes into my next question. Do you believe that your line of work infects our society with positivity?
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's a, what I think language is one of the most powerful things available to us, either as to build people up or as weapons. Like they are very powerful tools that have to be handled with care. And that is what I perceive my job as an artist to be. Um, and so, and part of that comes from my upbringing with Christian music, is that those are you stated earlier that we're in a spiritual war. Like the thing that music is able to do is to live in the subconscious and the conscious mind at the same time. And so whether you are able to describe why you like a song or not is sort of the like beauty. There's beauty in that ambiguity of not knowing fully why you like it, or why you're attracted to it, or inspired to do things by it. And so in its greatest form, I think it creates movements. And hip hop specifically, I think, was born beautifully out of pain. And so a lot of the criticisms of why it's negative or why it doesn't impact society positively don't always necessarily take into account where it came from. Like it is a transparent like tool that we use to speak. And if someone is speaking from pain, then those things can feel painful or feel violent or feel restricted. And we have to hear them and listen to them for where they're coming from, and also appreciate that it is an art form that is able to give more transparency to hard situations. But in its greatest form, I think that what I do and what I enjoy is using language to build things up positively, or to impact people in a positive subconscious way.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes. There's a scripture that I absolutely love that always comes to mind when I think about language and words, is life and death is in the power of the tongue, and
Yeah.
those who love it will eat its fruit.
Mhm.
And when you think about energy, everything is energy, everything holds energy. Words are hold some of the highest frequency, right? So when you understand that, and when you're able to utilize this tool of language, right, you're able to really consciously put out that high frequency energy with your words. And so I love music, especially Christian music. Like I grew up just like you in a Christian home. My dad's been a minister my entire life. And so gospel music was a huge part of my upbringing. But I also grew up in the 90s, and I had older siblings, and I was introduced to so many different genres of music, good and bad. But one of the things that I really learned, and I love the English language. I love linguistics. I think it's so powerful. And just tuning into the words that you're listening to. It's not just about the sound, although sound is also, holds a very high frequency or a low frequency, depending on what type of sound you're listening to. But if you can use sound and the power of words to evoke a powerful emotion that's going to uplift someone's spirit, that is so powerful.
Yeah,
So powerful.
you have to really be careful with it because of the power of it, because it's greater than you, and it's not. A lot of people can hold that power and think that it's them that's holding it, and it eats them up, or it somehow like dirties up the channel of communication. But it is a powerful thing to hold that, to influence people positively, and also walk away from it knowing that it's greater than you, and that you did hard work to be able to stand in that position, but it's always for the greater benefit. And then hopefully you can hand it off to someone else to then have two people holding it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So why did you choose English?
So when I was football first, but I thought that I was going back and forth between math, philosophy, and English. I felt like math was going to be a little bit too intensive for a football schedule. And then philosophy was good, but I felt like I wasn't going to be able to translate that to job opportunities if I needed them. And then English, I was trying to go for creative writing so I could sort of like do my music thing in class and then do football afterwards. And they didn't offer a creative writing major, but they offered a minor under the English major. And so I majored in English so I could do a creative writing minor.
So do you write your own music?
Oh yeah, I would say what I am is a storyteller. Like even now when I look back at my football career, it's an amazing story that I'm glad I have. And so for me, I hear the words before I ever hear the music. That's like that is where I live, is in writing lyrics and writing full stories that connect with people.
Nice. And so do you produce all of your own music as well?
I started producing maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so now I'm a co-producer in a lot of my things. So I like to start with the production and to be a part of the production process, but I also really enjoy where other people can take songs because that's part of the beauty of music, is that there are a lot of different skill sets inside of the space that can take things well beyond where you can imagine in your mind. But I like to create the story, and I really enjoy collaborating with people who can help it sound contemporary.
Yes, that's great. It's really awesome to be able to express and to know how to express, because oftentimes people have a really hard time expressing, vocalizing what they see in their mind. So for you to be able to express that through lyrics, words, and writing, and then to be able to share that vision with somebody that has a very similar vision, to be able to create something greater than you could have ever imagined through collaboration, that is such an amazing thing to be able to do that. Because I'm kind of a control freak, and I also I'm a visionary. Like I have a very, very creative mind, and I sometimes have a really hard time vocalizing that or sharing that vision with somebody that could actually help me put that together, because I want to take control of everything, right? But it's so great to be able to let go of that control and to be able to, share that vision with somebody that can take it to a whole new level that you might have not been able to see because it's yours.
Right.
It's so personal. It's such a personal thing. And when you can just hand over the baton to somebody who can take that vision to a grander level, that's powerful. That's so powerful. Now, how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person and as a creative?
I always take from reality. I don't try to source things that are outside of what is happening. And that's mostly so that it can resonate with people, with real people. So like I embellish after the fact. So let's say I use like a comedy, like what I can't remember what it's called, theory of threes, or like the triplet thing, where if you say something three different times in a sitcom, then it's like the third time is really funny.
Yeah.
But for me, that's like my perspective filter, is that, let's say I see someone walking a dog and they get yanked a little bit, and then I see a meme of like someone getting yanked on the internet, and then I am watching a TV show and there's like that exact moment is happening in the TV show, then I'm like, oh, that's a song, because the first time I noticed it, which means I know that I have a unique perspective personally. But if I see it in a second place, I'm like, oh, someone else noticed it. So this is now a noticeable phenomenon that's happening. And then the third one means that I now have like a way to tell a story in a way that helps someone connect those things to like, oh, this is an idea. And so that's what I start with, for this authenticity, for perspective, for making sure that people would be able to understand it. And then that's where you know, what is the song then that tells that story? Like, how does that sound? What is the voice? What is am I doing like really quick rap into that, or am I just going to do singing for that? Or like, how does that sound? That's sort of my like filter for songwriting.
Do you ever, or have you ever found yourself falling into the comparison trap?
Yeah. I mean, I would say this. So prior to what I was talking about with the do what you love every day, when I was really about who I was going to be before I was 30 years old, that was like, wow, look at what this person's Instagram is doing for their career, or wow, look at this person's merch sales, it's helping them actually go to the studio more, or I don't know, like that was like a really easy trap when I was so into how people perceived like my art outside of me. Now I don't like it's something that I am aware of. I like to be aware of how other people are innovating, mostly. Like I don't necessarily care as much about people's success, because I understand success is like something that you define for yourself, and that there are ways to measure it so differently that are personal. But I really look for, oh, you know what? This person is using NFTs in a different way than I've ever seen before. Or this person is really doing like a strategized plan for how they're rolling out their project. Or, those types of things are the things that inspire me, because they introduce me to new ways that things can be possible. And that's how I like to operate, is being innovative, being like ahead of the curve on something that might seem outlandish, or really being like forward thinking is really what I enjoy being.
That's so good. That's so good. And it's always really great to look at other people's projects, just like what I'm doing currently with this series, right? It's always really great to hear people's stories and how they're doing it, what they're doing with their gifts and talents and skills. And then you could put a twist on it, right? And there's so much room for everyone to win, because although this world is so big, and there's just not enough people operating in their purpose, one. And two, even though we may be doing the exact same thing, we have a completely different audience,
Right.
right? So we have the capacity to impact people at a grander scale if each and every one of us are operating in our personal lane, right? And just continuing to fulfill that daily vision every
Right.
single day. And it's the puzzle pieces that come together every single day. through our human evolution, right? Like we see something different every single day. And I love that you talked about perspective, because perspective is everything individually, right? We can be standing in the exact same room, looking at the exact same piece of art, you and we're having a completely different experience.
Right. And that's, I think, what is, I don't know, that is like the magic of existing with other people, you know, like comparison is a bad thing if you then turn around and look at yourself and feel worse, you know, but it's good in the sense that people are different than you. People have different perspectives. They have different values and upbringings and stories that can be resources for you to help better figure out, you know, what it is that you want to do or what you can achieve or what is possible. And that, in that sense, I think that is the magic, is that you and I can be in the same room on the same podcast, but what I'm looking at is a wall behind you too, and you're looking at the wall behind me, and like we're looking at different things but having the same conversation, and we'll talk to different people about this, and it will be, you know, bigger than you and I.
Yes, and that is the power of, that's the power of intention. It's the power of positive energy. And granted, not everything is going to be a positive experience, because oftentimes through a human evolution, we're going to have a lot of contrast. I mean, we live in a duality filled world, but the contrast is so important, because it gives you an opportunity to always, well, at least I try to, and I don't know, I'm sure that this is the way that you are because you're a visionary, but to always look at things from a higher vantage point, to always look at things from a higher perspective, because it's not, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, right? And oftentimes we're going to take the deep end of the road, right? We're going to go through like some very dark spaces, and through those dark spaces and those negative experiences, that's an opportunity for expansion, right? And the more that you go through, I truly believe that the bigger the purpose, oftentimes the harder the struggles that you have to go through in order to gain more responsibility, and also to create a bigger story, right? That we can share with people, because when there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So when we get to that the end of the tunnel and we see the light, we're able to look back, reflect back, and be like, you know what? I know you're going through this right now, but listen, I've been through a very similar journey, and I got through it and I saw the light, and I was able to look at all of these experiences that I was having. And I realized that, man, I'm stronger than I ever imagined, right?
Absolutely. I think that's, I have a good friend that I made music with who used to talk about perspective like a mountain. And he was like, the higher you go, the more you can see, but also the more you see, the more you see people that don't see. And you want to spend all your time trying to help people up the mountain, but it's like they can't see what you're seeing, you know? And so you have a decision to either go down and help people to see more what you see, and you'll go through a lot of resistance doing that, or you can look up the mountain and continue to get a better vantage point. And so I think that's something that, you know, we internally struggle with, is the more perspective you get and the more you challenge yourself to be better, the bigger the problems seem to you. And the more you start to actually see things and be like, your eyes become uncovered, and that becomes a big responsibility for you. And you know, that's just one of those things in life, that becoming more in tune with your purpose really becomes a journey.
Yes, it is. And there's a saying, leaders create leaders, right? Not everybody's going to want to lead, because leading is a huge responsibility. It takes a lot of grit, tenacity, resilience, strength, discipline. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to lead. But when you go through the journey of leadership, as you develop those strengths and those skill sets, you are able to help more people, because think about like the 4 minute mile, for instance, right? Nobody ever thought that it could be done. And then when it was done, so many more people were doing it,
Right.
right? So if you can see somebody doing something that you aspire or you envision yourself doing, then you realize that it's possible for you too. It just takes a lot of discipline. It takes, the action steps every single day. I'm not going to go down to the bottom of the mountain and drag someone up. You have to do the work
Right. Exactly.
individually. You have to do the work. We can walk together. I can encourage you. I can inspire you. I can motivate you, but you have to move your feet.
Right. And like you're saying, if I get to the top, or if I get to where someone perceives the top to be, then they know someone made it there. That can be an intrinsic motivator for them. That can be the catalyst for them. That can do more for them than going back down and re-walking the steps you already walked yourself.
Exactly. Yes, it's so true. And you don't even have to take the long route anymore. You can actually shorten your journey a little bit, because that person that you look up to did all the hard work. They maneuvered through all the hard paths, dark spaces, and were able to, lead you in a way that's going to shorten that path for you and get you there that much faster. But it either way, you're going to have to do the work. It takes work, and every single person's path is so unique and it's different. So, it's always really great to take nuggets of wisdom from other people and just apply that to the own, like that own experience thing, in order for it to fit into your own personal reality. Do you believe that the work that you do every day is aligned with your purpose and higher calling?
Yeah, I really believe that I'm a storyteller and that I'm a wordsmith. I think that's, you know, what I get out of music, is that it pays me in fulfillment to like inspire someone with just the words that I use. Or if I really think about the word choice, if I really like in my music, it's not something I completely advertise, but I don't cuss in my music. I don't use the N word. I don't use things that I think detract from more optimized ways of getting a message across. And I do that because, one, for publishing, if it goes on TV, it's easy to go on TV if it's clean. But then two, there's just like it puts you in a position where you have to use language that you may not have otherwise used in regular life, or you have to think about like creative metaphors, or you have to think about the ways that people are actually thinking about things and then link those together. And so my purpose, I think, is to tell a story, to tell stories, the ones that people are not paying attention to, or that don't necessarily seem, or that might be arbitrary to you. But if I put it into the context of racism, or if I put it into the context of sports, or if I put it in the context of anything that we're actually talking about viscerally all the time, then those are ways to connect bigger, larger messages with audiences. And
It
I think
is.
that's the purpose.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And it's so great that, you were able to transition from something that you thought was going to be your purpose for the rest of your life through football, right? To be able to take all those skill sets and the discipline that you learned through your process and journeying through your football career, to now be able to do music on a grander scale and use that story to be able to impact where you are currently. And that's such a beautiful thing. And you like to think that there's so many people that are doing that, but there's not enough. There's not enough people that are really using their history to be able to impact their current reality, so that it continues to domino effect into what we're going to be doing tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And yeah, it's really important. It's so important to see things. And our calling and higher purpose looks so different to everybody else. But I really encourage you today to really ask yourself that question, really reflect on what it is that your history looks like, and not necessarily use that as an excuse to throw your life away tomorrow, right? But use that history to be able to create a new story every day. My father used to always tell me, and he still to this day tells me, that we are the architects of our destiny. And that always stuck with me, because we truly are creating our life every single day. And we really don't know when our our human experience is going to end. But knowing that our soul never dies, right? And we go into different dimensions of time when we do transition, right? It just kind of helps ease our day-to-day activities, right? Because we know that if we're here, if we're present in the moment, we're able to tune into what spirit is asking us to do on a day-to-day basis. And that allows you to fulfill your purpose just by existing in a positive headspace. It's such a beautiful thing. What practices do you implement to stay grounded and divinely connected to yourself and your creator every single day?
My brain is always moving. And so one of the ways that I slow down is when I'm walking to the train. I have like a 12-minute walk from here to the Blue Line. And in that space, I am not on my phone. I embrace my surroundings. I breathe. You know what I mean? I'm watching people interact and really reminding myself that I'm connected to the things around me. I think that's something that as a songwriter is important, but also as a human is an important thing that, I think we all have lost in the last 18 months, or, it's been reduced in the last 18 months, which is, how do you remember how connected things actually are versus how siloed they can be? That's a practice that I'm trying to implement in 12-minute increments to remain connected. And I think that's a really small way to, I guess, like listen to the bigger parts of life.
Yes, it's so true. I lived in Chicago for 6 years of my life, and Chicago it's a very high vibrational city. I mean, there's just so much happening. So oftentimes it is a little bit hard to tune in to your own voice because there's so much noise. So that's great that you use walking, to the train, because I used to do that too. And it was like, I mean, being in a new space oftentimes really helps bring you back to like the present moment, especially if you're a curious person.
Yeah.
Because, being tapped into your surroundings, you recognize that really everything is a part of you.
Yeah.
Everything is mirroring back to you what you're experiencing internally. And so it does really give you an opportunity to tap into that. Now, are you as disciplined with your workouts now as you were when you played football?
Not at all. I gave myself, like, when I got out of football, my fingers were all busted up. My knees were hurting a little bit, back started hurting. So I was like trying to give myself some time to away from the regimen. And I gave myself about 5 years. And so now it's like when it's the summer and it's spring and it's really nice out, like I like to go running. That's what I actually enjoy doing. I'm not actually a big workout guy, and I don't enjoy the gym. Like I have a gym membership at Export, and I don't like going there, and I don't like how, I don't know, the energy is a little bit off to me versus like what the football workout facility was like. And so what I enjoy is running because of the fact that I am connected to the earth that I'm running on. And I only go as far as I go. And so it's a really, I don't know, therapeutic way to be active for me. And so I do enjoy going running. I do that maybe once or twice a week in good weather. And then I sort of just chill and make music all the way through the winter.
Nice, nice. That is so good. And it's so great that you've tuned into your body and really do what it's asking you to do, because we don't really need rigorous movement. We don't need to hit the gym every single day for 2-3 hours to get, results. Oftentimes it's through the resting period that our body recovers, regenerates, and actually does what it needs to do. And it's really important for to tap into that and to our natural healing abilities. Our bodies are so miraculous, and it does what it needs to do when you give it what it needs. And oftentimes stillness is like, it's more beneficial than actually hitting the gym hardcore. Like we don't need that.
Right. Like if it's something that you're interested in and that's like a passion of yours, like definitely jump into it. My passion was football and not working out. So I have, since reduced that, but yeah, running is definitely something that I feel connected to. And that's, something that I do very diligently when I'm doing it.
Nice. What is, so do you use your walking to the train as like a meditation practice? Is that, would you say do you do any other forms of meditation?
No, and that's mostly because when I'm in my own space, I like to be creating, I like to be in a creative mentality. And that makes it hard to truly meditate. Like, I think there's always like a voice talking back to me from different angles where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Let me get that down. You know what I mean? But when I'm outside of being able to create something outside of my home and away from interacting with people, then that's when I feel like I can silence everything and be in tune with what is the now,
Yes, that's so good. That's a meditative practice of its own. You know what I mean? To really, because meditation looks so differently for everybody. Everybody thinks that you have to be in a Zen room with, like pillows or laying down and completely like in silence with absolutely no thoughts coming in. But meditation is really the mindfulness of thought, really, tuning into the activity of your mind. Because we filter through hundreds of thousands of millions of thoughts every single day, right? So just being able to tune into them and to purge out the ones that don't serve you, right? Because we have negative voices talking to us all the time. And it's like the ego mind, it can really be detrimental to our overall well-being. So it's really important for us to tune in every single day. Just tune in. What words of wisdom would you give to those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Ooh, I would say, in the most responsible way, run towards your fear instead of running away from them. I think that I am working on that wording for myself, because I don't want people to put themselves in harmful situations. But I think that there's a different speed to running at your fear, running towards your fear, than running away, because a lot of people feel like their fear is protecting them from something versus holding them back from what might be the best thing that ever happened to them, right? And so part of why I call myself Keenan the First is because when you do something for the first time, it is the most anxious, like self-defeating, like just the most deterrence you'll face for something. And you have no use case for it. You have no reason necessarily to be that defeated. But then on the other side of doing something for the first time, it's like the highest elation that you'll ever have. It's like oh my God, I can't believe I just did the thing that I've never done before. And so when you really consider what that fear is sitting between, it's like the worst thing in the world versus what is the best thing in the world. Like, people talk about chasing the first high for the rest of their life, or we talk about, but we celebrate birthdays every single year. It's the day you came into the world that we celebrate. Like, there's such a huge occasion for losing a virginity, like it's such a precious moment in our culture, in our society, that that's what I focus on in my life is, why am I afraid of this? Is it because I've never done it before? Is it because I think I can't do it? Is it because instead of listening to the voices that say don't do it, it's why do I feel like I shouldn't? And consider doing it, or can talk yourself into other reasons for doing it beyond fear. And that is something that I think has helped me to grow, because like you said, if you're trying to run a 4-minute mile in a world where everyone's running 5-minute miles, there's nothing around you that will tell you that that's a good idea. So you have to, at some point, you have to do something while you're afraid. You have to do something with the fear. And on the other side of that, it could be, wow, you have a world record. Or it could be, you know what, I learned that I'm not a good runner.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
both of those things are useful to you because now you can use the information to do something. So, yeah.
That's so good. That is so good. Step into the fear. And you know what? Fear is an illusion. It's something that we create in our mind. And oftentimes, technology, again, like I said in the beginning of this call, that technology can be used as a negative tool, or it can be used as a positive tool. And the news media is using it for fear mongering and just negative news, right? So oftentimes we listen to that and we get stuck there. We become stagnant and we don't move. And so we allow all these noises to infiltrate our mind. We allow it to infiltrate our entire life. And then we don't do anything. We stay in muddy water and we just die, right? We die a slow death because we allowed fear to hold us back from the vision that we have to move forward into our dream life, right? And it's really important to recognize that we are the architects of our destiny, and that each and every single one of us is, we're moving in forward motion. And when we just take that small step every single day, we recognize that fear, there was really nothing to fear.
Right.
To begin with, right? There was really never anything to fear. And it's just taking that step forward and just doing it. And then the more that you do it, the fear just dissolves.
Right.
It just dissolves. That's so amazing. Is there, because you're an English major, so I'm sure you love to read. What was a book or two that really might have shifted your perspective about just the life that you're living today, or something, a book that might have inspired pretty big change in your life?
The Giver, which got made into a movie that didn't hit me as much, but the way that book was written was just so wild as a kid. I think I was like 12 years old or 11 years old. And it was really about an old man. Oh, there's a society that everyone, gets a certain job at a certain age, and this kid doesn't get selected. And there's this old man that no one talks to, and his whole job is to hold all the memories for society. But he's getting so old that he has to pass them on to a new person. And so in the society, there's no color, everything's the same. Like, no one has expressions, no one has like any of the memories of society. They're all just in this one guy. But he passes them on to this kid, and the kid is dealing with new perspective, new ideas that he can no longer express to his peers. And it's a very like poetic story about finding yourself within a society. And I think that really helped me to like grasp the fact that I am a leader. And part of leadership is like that dynamic of being the person that steps out on fear, being the person that is in the front, and being the person who doesn't know all the answers, but is convicted in at least their values, And yeah, that was like a really good story that was digestible, that inspired me.
How old were you when you read that book?
I think it was 12 years old, like fifth or sixth grade. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful because at that age, I mean, we're pretty much conscious, right? From the beginning of time, we're being molded by our surroundings, our experiences and stuff like that. But to be at that age, to be reading literature like that, and to already be thinking consciously in ways that you can really maneuver through life and really create the life that you envision, that's such a powerful thing. That is such a powerful tool that we have, our conscious mind, even our subconscious mind, right? To
Right.
really tap into that and to utilize these books that have been written, to use those as inspiring guides to be able to continue to fulfill our purpose and to know that, yeah, we're the creators.
Right.
We're the creators. That's so beautiful. Keenan, oh my gosh, this was wonderful. Do you have any finishing statements that you'd like to add before we end this call?
I would just like to say that I think it's really beautiful that you're focusing on purpose, because, like you mentioned earlier, it's one of those things that seems like if you're looking at other people, everyone has it figured out, but very few people are actively pursuing purpose as a lifelong thing, you know? And that's something that I think is a conversation that's really important to have, is that, you know what, your purpose is not what you can do by Friday. Your purpose is not what you can accomplish by next month. It's something that it's the opportunities you give yourself. It's the architecture of your destiny. It's the impact that you can have that's greater than you, that also fulfills you, and that's like, I'm glad that that's where your focus is and that I could contribute to that. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being a part of this collaboration project that was really inspired by my own personal journey. I was sharing with Keenan earlier today before I pressed record that I've transitioned through my life 17 times, and I'm sure that transitions are not going to stop. But through those transitions, I've learned to just become super adaptable to everything that happens on a day-to-day basis. And when you become adaptable, you recognize that change is the only constant, and that you have to make a choice every single day to transform through that change. I went through a holistic transformation where I've been able to transform my health internally, therefore completely transforming my external reality, not only my physical reality, but also how I think and see the world. And that's something that every single person has the capacity to do. We're not tapping into the brilliance of our mind every single day. We have billions of cells in our brain. We have trillions of atoms, DNA, cells, molecules within our body. Our structure is so miraculous. So how much more can you do? How much more can you do without actually beating yourself up about what you're not doing, right? Because when you take your focus away from what other people are doing and start to zone into your genius, right? Like you have such a brilliance within you that oftentimes we just don't tap into because we're always so focused on what our neighbor's doing, right? But I invite you to tap into your own personal zone of genius and recognize that you have a specific gift, that you have a specific blueprint, that you were brought here to this earth to fulfill. And if you're living here on planet Earth today, you are beyond blessed. Like, this planet is the most abundant planet in the universe. And if you're living here on this blue planet today, you have a gift. It's just a gift to be alive and breathing today. So I encourage you to tap into your zone of genius and to recognize that you yourself have a specific DNA code and that you have a very big purpose just by being alive here today. And if you were able to tune into this conversation, take a time to maneuver through the rest of this playlist and really just be inspired by all these people that are making waves on this planet, because there's a lot of us that are actually doing this work, and we invite you to join us in this collaboration project to be able to continue to inspire and uplift the vibration of this planet, because we need it more than ever before. So thank you so much for joining us today. Until we meet again, I'm sending you love, peace, and blessings every single day from this day moving forward. We'll see you soon.